this out and start checking for it. That is there. Let us do the pop out for the chat. Pop out. I apologise for the helicopter in the background. There is a fire, very hot day, and the hills are smoking, which is not good. Let's just update the chat box. Almost done. Just need a second just to get everything to update itself and catch up, and then be ready. And hopefully it's going to update. Alright. I will answer questions after live stream. Put your questions up as we go, and I will get to you. There we go. Let's make sure that is in so people know what's going on. It looks like it's updating, which is good news. It means everything is working correctly, and let's just check to make sure that the strength is still low output. School holidays, I guess I'm going to have to deal with that. Not much I can do, unfortunately. Hopefully it'll improve. I'm going to start in a few minutes. We're starting to get into the nuts and bolts of things now. We are actually talking about spells and how many spells and what spells and stuff like that. I'm just going to pop out the earplugs. The sound is working. And hopefully we don't get too much helicopter noise going on. I certainly hope so anyway. Alright, so we will get started because there is actually quite a lot to cover, and I'm unsure just how easy it is going to be to explain all of this. So, my first time trying to do it live stream. Hi, welcome to How to D&D. My name is Fred Weller, and today I'm going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5e, and specifically I'm talking about how to play Dungeons & Dragons 5e, and we're talking about the wizard. This is the basics around using a wizard. The spell book for the wizard is what we're going to concentrate on, and I pulled out a whiteboard and a whiteboard marker for this particular video so I can actually demonstrate and explain the nuts and bolts of the spell book and the spells for the wizard, because it's actually broken up into 3 categories of spell, and that is the spells that you know, that is the spells in the book, the spells that you can cast, the number of spells you can cast, and then the spells that you have prepared. So you have 3 different things you have to deal with, and unfortunately that can be very confusing for people. I found it confusing. I'm going to try to cover just 2 of those, because preparing spells is even more complicated than the other 2 aspects. You will find that I'm using the wizard, the pre-made character sheet that you can find in the Dungeons & Dragons 5e starter set. I'm using that particular wizard for this video. So if you are unsure about what the stats are and the makeup and everything, that is the one I'm going to use for today. You can find more information on the wizard by looking at pages 112 of the Player's Handbook for details on the wizard, but we're actually going to be covering quite a few pages. We're going to have to cover pages 112, 113, 114, and I think a little bit of 115. I can't quite remember. But that is going to give us, hopefully, all the information we need. So the first thing we're going to start out with is a first level wizard. This is our wizard for today. She is going to demonstrate for us. So how many cantrips do we get when we are first level? We're going to get 3. No matter what, you're always going to get 3. That's what you start out with. These are spells that you can cast as many times as you like. You get unlimited uses. So you get just 3 to start off with. Now if you have a look on page 113, it gives you a chart and it actually indicates when you increase the number of known cantrips. So when you get to level 3, you've still got 3 cantrips. When you get to level 4, you're going to get another cantrip. And you just add that on. That means these are spells that you know so well that you do not need to practice them. You can do them whenever you like. That's how they work. How many level 1 spells do you get at level 1? You get 6. So I put 4 dashes, a line through that, and that's representing 6. It will increase as you level up, only gradually. These are the spells that you know. They're not necessarily the spells that you can cast. That doesn't mean at level 1 you can cast 6 spells. At level 1, you know 6 spells, and they are in your spell book, because that's what you are given at level 1. You get 6 spells at level 1, known. Those are level 1 spells. But there's a restriction, because at level 1 you only get to cast any of those 6 spells twice. So that's 2. No more. Nothing else. So what happens as we level up? Well, you're going to get more spells. That's how it basically works. At level 1, you got only 2 spell slots that you could utilize. When you get to level 2, it's going to change. The cantrips stay exactly the same, but when you get to level 2, you're going to get an additional level 1 spell that you can cast, because you get an additional slot. So it goes to 3 slots. So you can cast 3 level 1 spells in that day. That is what you get. And it'll be based on a combination of things. Primarily what spells you have prepared. But as I said, I'm not going to talk about that. That's too complicated. So when your wizard goes to level 3, you're still going to retain exactly the same number of cantrips. So it stays at 3. You can only, you pick 3 cantrips, and those are the ones you always can use. But the number of spells that you have access to changes. Oh, almost forgot. At level 2, when you level up, you get additional spells. You do actually gain additional spells that you can utilize. So when you level up, you get 2 additional spells that you can write into your spell book. These are the spells that you know. These are the ones that you are able to cast. You have learnt these. You have put effort into them. So we're going to add, so you're level 2, 3 cantrips, and you now know 8 level 1 spells. And you can cast 3 level 1 spells, and that's it for the day. There are some provisos to this, but we'll get there. When we get to level 3, it's the same thing with the cantrips. As I said, the cantrips stay at 3, but the number of level 1 spells that you know increases. Every level you go up, you get 2 more spells that you add to your spell book. So we're now level 3. So we now have 10 spells. Whoops, I just made a boo-boo. Should be like that, shouldn't it? There we go. So you know 10 spells. So how many spells can you actually cast? Well, as it happens, you get 4. And this is all indicated on the back of the wizard character sheet for the Dungeons & Dragons 5e starter set. It actually has a chart on the back. It points you and explains how you go. When we get to level 3, okay, we're going to get access to different spells. So we're going to get access to level 2 spells. Okay, you get 2 of these, which is pretty cool. So you get access to 2. Now, when you get your 2 extra spells, when you level up, they could be a level 1 spell or they could be a level 2 spell. Well, I don't really need all of my spells to be level 1 spells. So let's change that back to what it was. Let's just rub that out like so, and I'm going to stick with just the 3. I'll stick with 8, and I want to learn, when I go up, I'll learn 2 more spells in my spell book, and they're level 2 spells. Very, very, very simple. And how many slots? We get 2. When we go to level 4, we're going to get 4 cantrips. So we get an additional cantrip. So add that on. We've increased in level, so we also get additional spells that we can put into our spell book. Now I can add them to my level 1 spells or my level 2 spells. I'm going to add them to level 2. Okay, like so. How many spells do I get to cast? Well, at level 4, I still only get to use 4 of my level 1 spells, but I get to increase the number of level 2 spells that I know. I can now cast 3 of those 4 spells that I know. That's how it works. Very, very simple. Level 5, we go up again. How many cantrips? Stays at 4, doesn't change. How many level 1 spells do we get? How many do we know? Well, we get to add 2 more spells. I can add them to level 1 or level 2. I'm going to add 1 to level 2 and 1 over here. So I've now increased my number of spells in my spell book by 2 every time I level up. How many spells can I cast at level 1? Well, that is going to be based off the same number. It doesn't change. You keep that right where it is. And you get to retain the number of spells. So you still only got 3 slots at level 2. Level 2 spells, only 3 slots that you can use up. But you gain access to level 3 spells. Now, I don't have any space on my board. You get 2 slots for level 3 spells. And you have to decide whether you're going to actually learn level 3 spells, or do I take a level 1 spell or level 2 spell? It's really, that's how it works. That's how the slots work. They're separate from, this is the known spells, and this is the number of spells in that particular section that you can cast in a day. It's as simple as that. I can't go over this much more than that. It's easy for you to add spells to your spell book. If you have another spell book, you can copy them over, provided you have money and time. If you have a scroll, you can copy them into your spell book and increase this, but you won't be able to change that factor. The number of slots you get doesn't increase just because you have necessarily another spell book that you're copying spells from that into your spell book. So known spells and spell slots. I don't want to go into this anymore. I really want to make this video really, really short. I want to answer some questions. There's only 3 people in the room anyway. So I will just tidy things up and we'll go from there. So if you found this helpful or useful, please share it and like. If you aren't subscribed and you like this sort of content, I'm doing more of this content all the time. So by all means subscribe and you'll get more content. I do lots of different things, but how to play Dungeons and Dragons is one of those things I do quite a lot of. If you want to click the bell button underneath the video, you'll get occasional notifications, but I do videos pretty much every single day. If you want to support my channel, watching my videos will help. I get a bit of ad revenue from that. But if you want to click on the affiliate links in the description, you can purchase things online, if you do, that is, and that will help support my channel. It gives me a small bit of income, a bit of a commission, and you pay the same price. I don't do Patreon, and the reason I don't do Patreon is I feel like that would take control of the content away from me and give it to somebody else, so I don't do Patreon. If you want to really support me, then using the affiliate links to buy stuff online. If you don't buy online, don't worry about it. And if you have questions, I'm going to answer those questions after this live stream. I'm going to keep it running for a little while. If you're not part of the live stream, you can ask questions in the comments. I will answer those questions. I usually answer all the questions that people put up. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. All right, I'm just going to see how we're going in terms of interest. Epifans, how's it going? Hello. Are there any questions with regard to known spells and spell slots? Because like I said, there's a difference between the spells that you know that are in your spell book, the number of spell slots that you have, in other words, how many spells of a particular level you can cast in a given day, and then you have the other thing, which is prepared spells, because you actually have to go through the known spells and select a certain number that you can prepare, that you can utilize and use your spell slots with. With cantrips, it's never an issue. Cantrips are just how they are. You know, you have 3 cantrips or 4 cantrips and you cast them as many times as you like. RJ, how's it going? Thanks for your time, Fred. I brought my books through your link today. Hopefully it worked. Well, that'd be great. Hey, thank you, man, for doing that. You know, honestly, it's nice when people do that, because I was a little bit worried that people would get offended, but I've noticed that so many channels do it. So I'm trying to do that, and I'm trying to stay away from Patreon, because I feel like it's like you're paying for my services, and if the content changes or it's not as higher quality as you would have liked, then I feel like I haven't done a decent job. And unfortunately, even Patreon, I'm a small channel, it would never pay enough anyway to warrant thinking that way. So I feel like, you know, if you're buying online, it's always great for me, because, you know, if you're going to do it anyway, going through my link, I get a benefit, you get a benefit. It's a win-win situation. Are there any questions regarding the wizard and known spells in the spell book, spell slots, and prepared spells? I'm not going to cover prepared spells because I'm literally going to stop this live stream very, very shortly once everybody's sort of had their say, and I'm going to have a rest, rest my voice, come back, and then try to decipher prepared spells for you. Doesn't seem to be any questions so far, so yeah, if we don't get any more responses, I am going to close up this live stream and come back in a little while. Hopefully when the helicopter's gone away, but who knows? You never know. Sometimes the helicopter goes away, sometimes it doesn't. I think it can go anywhere because that smoke is spreading. It's dissipating a little bit, but there's a pretty concentrated section just on one of the hills. Okay, alright, well, if there aren't any more questions, I'm going to shut off this live stream, come back after I've had a little bit of a rest and let my voice recover, and I will see you guys in about half an hour.